Ordway friends, how are we doing today? My name is Andrea. Today I thought we could talk about extensions. As a teacher and a movement coach, I often get asked the questions, how do I get higher extensions? So I'm going to give you a few tips and tricks. Of course, they're not instant, but it's more about switching. A lot of it is about switching your perspective of the trajectory of your movement to make something happen so that we can just use the muscle groups that are most efficient as opposed to firing all of our muscles at once and making the movement harder. And I'm going to approach it from a ballet perspective and then lead it into more musical theater stylized kicks or extensions. So here we go. First of all, of course, extensions require flexibility, but in my mind, it's also not about how high your, get here, ready, how high your extension is. It's about the quality of it, the line of it, the energy of it. Don't you agree? Yeah. Okay, so Buddy will sit and watch us. So I'll talk you through just a couple stretches that you can do to maybe help facilitate your extensions a little bit more, but of course, by all means, work within your body's own limits. Our body's structures are all different, so we have to honor that. So, first of all, we have to acknowledge that extensions require flexibility in the front of the body as well as in the back, the upper hamstring, a lot of times. So we're going to just do a couple of things to get into that area. I like to take, I'll move back a little bit. I like to take a nice lunge, and even just here, standing lunge, you can hold on to a chair and just bending that back knee and feeling your pelvis drop right down. So it's nice and square this way, but also it's not tilting any which way. It's sitting, I like to say that your pelvis is like a sink basin. So if it tilts any which way, the water's gonna spill out. So we wanna try and get freedom in the legs around the pelvis. So if you're hanging onto the back of a chair or something, just bending and feeling that pelvis, your sits bones, dropping down to the floor. And then just starting to stretch that back leg, feeling that back heel, really reach out while trying to keep the pelvis as stable as possible. Of course, you can come all the way down to your knee. I know you can't see completely, but same thing, dropping down to the knee. And there's a couple of things here, even just again, keeping the pelvis really straight and maybe reaching the arms up, maybe reaching the opposite arm. So opposite arm will stay up to the front leg. The same arm as my front leg will reach back and maybe just lengthening the front of the torso. Of course, the longer lunge you have, the more stretch you will get in the front of that back leg and all the way up the front body. We can pick the hips up into more of a triangle pose and start to get into that front hamstring. And again, trying to keep the hips as square as possible when you do this. We want to stretch in parallel as much as possible, even though a lot of our positions are turned out. So you can start to just flow in and out of that movement. Also, extensions require a lot of strength, more so than flexibility, I think. Strength and stability. So also being in this position here, again, hanging onto the back of a chair if you wish, bringing your weight forward, chest forward over your toe, and then floating up that back leg in parallel. Now you can keep that standing leg straight, or you can bend it here while your back leg is up, and then straight, and then up. So I'm building that stability on my supporting leg, and then also stability on that back leg, that side of the hip, by lifting and lowering a parallel standing leg. Yeah, of course from there, then you can down into standing splits to stretch out that way. When you are stretching your splits, dancers, I again invite you to stretch in parallel. So again, from that lunge position, let's see if I go all the way back here. If you stretch in that lunge position and then you keep your hips totally square, I'm going to be on the back foot, on the ball of my foot. I'm going to be here, use my hands on the floor. I'm going to lean, sit my hips back, flex my front foot, and then slide out. I'm going to stay on my back knee. So if you can see this way, I'm on my back knee. And I'm keeping my hips really parallel. So I'm actually getting a nice stretch in the front as well, and a stretch under my front hamstring. And then you go as low as your body allows throughout the stretch. Then you can open up into a turned out position. So that's just a little bit about some flexibility exercises. Next, I would invite you, just start to come to the bar, we'll call it bar right now, and start to work with your legs this way. So you can also place your foot on your countertop or your bar parallel again, and just feel that stretch in that front supporting leg. Yeah. And then from there, take your arm underneath your working leg, knee. And so I'm really hugging my upper thigh into my chest. So a lot of times when we do extension, there's just this disjointed thing that happens where we lean away from the leg. That actually requires much more work of the top of this leg to use those muscles to get an extension. So we really want to bring that leg in close to you, the center of your body, right? So you can just hang out here for a little bit, flex and point your foot. From there even, feel the knee as if you're pulling it up with a string, that is rising to the sky, and flex this foot in opposition, yeah? So we're really working on strengthening this part to get your leg up. Pick your leg back up again. You can swizzle a little bit. From here, as we pick our leg up, then you can start to extend again within your body's own capacity. So you're bringing your lower leg up to the angle of where your knee is, yeah? And then if it is straight, you want to feel again that heel is rotated, so it's sitting nicely in your hip socket. So from there, you want to feel the length, the energy out the heel. I like to flex a lot. And then feel in resistance or in opposition, the pelvis is reaching down. Yeah, and then you can go into a point. And eventually, again, this takes time, it's building blocks. So living here for a while, yeah, getting used to that, getting used to holding your upper leg in that position as your supporting leg is rooting down, this knee's going up, this side of the pelvis is rooting down, yeah, and then you work on getting that heel up and then being able to hold, yeah? So that's in more of a turned out position. To the front, also, when we're turned out, we want to think, often we lean back, and that is harder for our leg to get up. So we want to, again, feel that pelvis in a neutral position. And again, just work on getting the heel up in front of you. And then working on this strength here, yeah? So again, flexing for me really helps. You can stay here and just do little lifts. If your leg is on the bar, this is a really great one. Feel your supporting leg flexed down, your working leg flexed out, and starting to work from under here, feel that heel lift up and up and up. And then eventually, when you kick, you'll feel those muscles working. Now in musical theater, we tend to work a little bit more in parallel, but really musical theater, it encompasses all styles. The ballet technique is really important in terms of knowing how to use your turnout, vice versa, with your parallel positions. So there's a little bit more of an attack, right, with our positions in musical theater. So same thing, if I'm doing a kick front, I don't want to feel lifting my leg because that's so hard on the front of the leg, and I'm sure you feel it in the hip flexors as well. So what I want to feel is I want to feel the strength of my knee going up, right, in front of me, up, yeah? And then all I want to think about is my foot. So in my ballet classes, I often talk about changing your perspective. We all know how to point our foot, right? But thinking about the heel, where is the heel placed in relation to the structure of our body? So I like to think, instead of toe again, because that relates to the front of my leg, I want to think heel, because then that allows me to feel the whole underneath side of my leg work. So I just want to think knee up and then heel, place it. So even in a really dynamic kick, I don't want to lose control of myself. I want to place my heel up so that then I can come down or come in whichever position after that, yeah? So it applies to low things as well. Placing your heel in the space, yeah? So that's really for like a kick front. Grand battement is same thing, right? If you have up, in, that kind of stylized, right? So I'm thinking from underneath the leg, getting that heel up, and then coming, again, placing it wherever it needs to be. Whether you're coming tombe off of it, again, it can happen so often, and we can go into so many positions. It can come out of a turn, and then a battement saute, right? So again, if you just think, where do I place my foot in the air? I promise you, it will be a lot easier to achieve. So work on a couple of those strength training exercises for, again, stabilizing around the hips, and a little bit nice and easy, just stretching out those areas, the back, upper hamstring, the front of the hip flexors, and all along the front of the body as well, right? So the one thing we want to avoid is using all of this first to lift our leg, right? We often see, right? So you want to think all of this is actually going down the front points of our hips. You want to think of an arrow going down as your foot goes up, as your leg goes up high to the sky, yeah? So I hope those tips help. Please send us any questions that you may have, and we can try and answer them more as we go, as we are dancing in our homes together. Be well, my friends. Stick with it. We're in this together. Bye.